In a lot of cases, you'll find that you need to basically revise the output you get from ChatGPT and other language models, and you're not getting the perfect output the first time around. So you'll need to fine tune that. That's called prompt revision. And this is how you follow up basically to revise an answer that you got the first time around. This could happen if you do prompt priming. This could happen if you're just asking a basic question. You still have to revise what you're getting on the output. So prompt revision is a really good way to tailor the output to the final destination that you want to go to, rather than every time starting from scratch and trying a whole different prompt. So that's what I recommend to do, is just doing follow-ups with these prompt revisions. So I'll give you several examples of some of my favorite prompts. Again, you could type these in exactly as I'm showing you here. And again, they're included below. Okay, so I'll start here. I'm gonna, again, say, what is generative AI, and see what it gives me. And then I'll do a prompt revision, which in this case, this is my prompt revision. I'm gonna say, let me give you more context. Because a lot of times, as I mentioned before, you gotta give it context so it knows what you're doing. So right now, it just gave me kind of a generic answer. It doesn't know why I asked that question specifically, but by giving it more context, it will know that. So I'm gonna say, I'm writing a research paper. Can you rewrite this topic with that in mind? And then it's gonna do a whole different type of an output with context, right? It's gonna give me title, it's gonna give me keywords, abstract, right? It's writing it in a whole different format. Introductions, section outline, right? Way kind of a different output. And that's why that's one of my favorite revisions for prompt revisions. Let me give you some more context and then add your context there. The next one is simplify your response. If you say simplify your response, a lot of times it cuts the length. A lot of times it simplifies the words that he's using. This one is one of my favorites, where you could say, now explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. Now you could do really any age that you want, or explain it to me like I'm a college student or I'm a college professor. And this is gonna give you a whole different types of output. So as you can see, generative AI is like a very smart computer. This is for like a 5-year-old. Very useful prompt revision. The next one is change the length. So this is really, really useful. You could say, write it in just one paragraph. You could say, write it in 1,000 words. So in this case, it's gonna expand it. You could say, write it again in one sentence. Ton of different options with changing the length of your output. So if I say, write it again in one paragraph, it's only going to give me one paragraph. This one was what, 4 paragraphs. Now I got it just in one paragraph. So I use this one all the time, because a lot of times you need to expand what you're writing or what the input is. Sometimes you need to basically condense it. A lot of times it gives me too much of an output and I need to cut it down. Next one is write it in a conversational style. So changing the tone and the style, we looked at that in the prompt priming, but you could always do this as you get the output, do the prompt revision, write it in a conversational style. Write it in a college essay format. Write it as a SEO friendly blog post. One of my favorites in the world of marketing. Now, the next one is changing the actual format, the output that is giving you. So write it as bullet points, write it as a summary, write it as a word cloud, write it as a table. So this one is really, really useful, because it could take, again, large amount of text and then make it a lot easier. So you could see this is the bullet point version of it. This is the word cloud version of it. You could do it again in table format. Lot of useful ways to get this to change the format of its output with a revision. Okay, I'm gonna show you one more example here that comes in really handy. You could add this prompt to all the prompts that I mentioned so far. But again, I asked, what is generative AI? It gave me an output. So I'm gonna do one of my prompt revisions, rewrite this for a digital marketer. But this time I'm gonna say, tell me exactly what you changed. This sentence, you could add this to any prompt that I mentioned in this section, and then it will tell you exactly what you changed. So at a glance, you could see what has changed, and maybe you didn't intend it to change those things, then you could revert back. And in this case, it kind of gave me an output. It says, basically, these are all the different things it changed. It changed a lot because my prompt was a lot different. So it had to change a whole lot about the way you wrote it. If it doesn't give you this kind of output, all you have to do is, again, give a prompt saying, tell me exactly what you changed between your first and second response, and you should get something that looks like this. But this is really useful. This way, at a glance, I could see, wow, it changed a whole lot. Maybe I didn't mean to do that. And then I could revise it from there. But those are some of my favorite ways to take the output it gives me and then give it a prompt to revise it based on what I'm looking for.